Hey John, this is AJDUSHMAN from Windermere. John has been a real estate agent and a real estate investor for 45 years, and he has about 25 properties.
No.
No?
No, only about 13.
13. Okay. So I was wrong. Okay. So, do you have any stories about... No, actually, how did you become part of Windermere?
A while back, I belonged to Century 21. Century 21 owner decided he was going to sell. At the time, there was a group of us that wanted to buy it, but not for the amount of money he wanted to sell for. So at that particular point, I decided to join another firm in the town. At that time it was called Homestead. Within a year or so, I became one of the owners of Homestead, realizing that people did not know what Homestead was. There was no brand name, there was nothing other than what people knew inside the town. I decided at that time to bring up the idea of franchising. We talked with many franchises. Century 21 even said they would allow us to become Century 21, which was pretty much across the street from the other Century 21. Coldwell Banker said, you give us money, we'll give you a franchise. And that's basically what all of the franchises did, except for Windermere. Windermere came in and said, wait a minute, before we're willing to give you a franchise, we're gonna go and talk to the people in the town and news people and all the rest to find out how Homestead is perceived right now. That kind of intrigued us. It was also the only company that had what was called a book of business for when an agent retires, they can actually sell that book of business to another agent. It had a lot of agent pros, and we did like that. We were very much an agent pro company. And so to us, it was an easy fit.
Did you start as an owner or did you start as an agent?
I started as an owner with Windermere.
Okay. And you were already an agent at that time?
Yes.
Do you have to be an agent to be an owner?
No, you do not. But you cannot be, of course, you cannot be a managing broker. So you have input with your managing broker, but when it comes down to the business itself of real estate, the managing broker decides.
I got you. Do you have a story about your best or worst client?
I guess as long as we're not using names.
No, don't use it.
No, just teasing. You know, I think I've never really had a worst client. Suffice to say, probably the worst client I ever had was my significant other.
That does happen.
Yeah, it does happen. And she knows it, but because of her, we live in the house that we have now, and it's wonderful. My best client was actually someone that you might think would be hard to deal with. It was actually an actress, and it was in Hawaii, and they were doing a film over in Hawaii for becoming a TV show. And she was delightful. Every property I showed her, she found all the good things about the property. None of the negative things. Nothing like if you watch TV today and you see these real estate shows, none of the negative stuff. She went right for all the positive things. So I'd have to say she was the best client I ever had. She was one of those people that just made you smile, to go out with her.
I got you. What about people you worked with? You have any funny stories or bad stories about brokers that you worked with, or whether in your office or not?
Yeah, well, I haven't had any. Luckily, I've not had any bad experiences with the agents in the office. Maybe because I've got a lot of seniority. If there's something going on, they just listen to me. But I have had experiences with agents that I consider are newer and are either not trained, or they think that they know what they're talking about. It becomes very frustrating.
Right.
With those kind of people.
So you tell us a little bit about your rental properties.
The majority of my rental properties are manufactured homes. I like to buy what they call buy low, sell high. Well, I don't sell, but I always buy low. I buy properties that are very much in need of repair. Mobile homes are very easy to fix. I like to fix them up so they look really good. You know, I like to put in laminate floors. I like to put in quartz counters. I like to put in new cabinetry. I usually strip them right down to the studs. That's what I think gets you the most amount of money. Plus, it gets you, and if you're going to get the most amount of money, you're not going to get as much in the way of headaches. The reason I got into rentals in the first place is that I never thought my Social Security was going to be enough to sustain me. So by buying early, I've gotten to the point where I've cleared off some of the mortgages, and there are many of my other rentals right now that have minimal amount of mortgages. My premise is when I retire, all of my rentals are free and clear, and that's my retirement.
I was going to ask you, would you rather buy cash or with a loan? So your money or somebody else's?
There's some real interesting things about that. If you're buying a home that you can have a mortgage on, it's not a bad idea. That leaves you cash to do all your repairs. The majority of properties that I buy, I can't get a loan on.
Right,
So
that's the way you get the best deals.
Yeah, I'm buying most of them as cash.
So, this is a two-part question. Would you ever buy in a park, and would you ever buy a park?
I own a park.
Okay.
Yeah, my partner Steve Gilling and I, we both are half and half of a park here in Yelm. That's a great rental business.
Tell me about it.
Well, you have, in our particular park, you're looking at $475 to $500 per spot. But the only thing you have to worry about is septic and water.
How many spots are there?
We have 8 spots.
8 spots.
So you figure there's no maintenance on the house. There's nothing.
Right, you just own the land, and they can't really destroy the land. There's nothing they can do.
Yep.
So you just collect the rent, right?
Just collect the rent.
Is there any problems or maintenance that comes up owning a park?
Well, sure. Probably about a month and a half ago, we had an issue with the well, and we took care of the well. The cost for the well didn't outweigh 1 month's rent. But There is one thing about owning parks, is you are the landlord of what happens in there. It's not just like owning a single family home where people can do pretty much whatever they want. You have a coexistence of all the people in there.
Right, you're kind of a babysitter.
Yes, and we do have a very nice woman that brings to our attention, things that need to be brought to our attention. You find people that decide that they're going to keep the trash bags outside for a while, and that doesn't work. So there are some things that you have to take care of along the way.
Do you have to take care of the septics, or do they?
We take care of the septics.
I see. So why mobile homes? Why and why does everybody else hate mobile homes and you love them?
Stigma. That's the biggest thing. They got a bad reputation when, prior to 1977, actually 6th month of 1976, mobile homes were made with aluminum wiring. They were known to burn.
Oh.
Yes. And so it's very hard to get over that stigma. The other thing that people think is that since they're assembly line made, that they're made poorly. Actually, their construction is pretty much on par with construction of houses. The only difference is your walls may be a little bit thinner. You may not get all of the improvements you'd like to have. But the reason I like to buy them is because, first of all, that stigma helps me.
Mm-hmm.
Makes people are willing to sell cheaper because they think they're cheaper. They're well, to me, a lot easier to fix. I mean, if I have to strip out a house and put a house back together the way I would a, say, 1,600 square foot manufactured home, it'd cost me twice as much to get that done. Don't ask me why. I don't know if contractors think, oh, well, it's a manufactured home, I'm gonna charge less. I don't know. But it does happen that way. And so for the amount of money I put in, for what it costs me to buy, and the amount of rent I get a lot more payback for my money.
I got you. Have you ever bought vacant land?
Once, because I thought I was gonna build a home.
That sounds like a story.
Yeah, never got around to it. Left it, only cost me, I mean, I paid taxes on it, paid taxes on it, and finally realized I'm never gonna build a house. I don't have the time to build a house. So I did sell it, and that was quite a long time ago. So I broke even when I sold it. I didn't make any money.
How long did you own it for?
I owned it for about 5 to 6 years.
Okay. But at least you broke even, right?
Yeah, but it's not like today where if I owned that same property and bought it last year and turned around this year and sold it, I would have made money because the property values have gone up in the last couple of years quite a bit.
Right, but would you, maintaining the property tax and maintaining the property, would you have made money or would it have been a wash?
I still would have made money today, but it's not worth it. And the reason for it, it's just like buying homes. If you don't buy an investment property at the right amount of money in an area that has a homeowners association or anything else, or like vacant land where you're paying taxes and have no income, it can be more of a drain. If you have an HOA that's anywhere from $150 to $300 a month, and you are renting a property in there for say $1,300, let's say your base is $1,000. You could have bought that same property outside the HOA and your base is $1,300. So you just have to be careful where you buy. And again, vacant land, no income, it's all outgoing.
Right, all that money that you paid for the property, you could have had a rental property and been making money off of it.
That's right.
Yeah. So do you, as an agent, do you have any stories about showings? Have you ever had a situation where you maybe needed a gun or something?
No, actually never felt that I ever needed one. And I do a lot of foreclosure business and I go into the hills and I don't know, I just never felt threatened by it, anything out there. But as far as showing goes, I had a very nice couple and we went to a large log cabin home and it was $700,000, I think. At $700,000, you're thinking nice, well kept, all of that. And we're walking through the house and it was pretty obvious that the kids that were in there weren't really taking a whole lot of care. And then we opened up the garage door and it was filled with garbage. And as soon as that door opened up, it was like, the smell was horrendous. Needless to say, we actually, that was it actually. They decided they weren't going to move down to this area.
Oh, wow.
Anymore.
So
they went up north from Seattle.
Wow.
But yeah, that was my worst.
So the seller didn't know that it was filled with garbage? I don't get it.
I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe the kids were just living there. Kids meaning, 20s and
right, they're
20
kids and they were hiding it from their parents?
I think so because
All right, I got a question that might be kind of controversial. What do you think of the real estate market today, and would you buy a house even if it was a deal?
I'd always buy a house if it was a deal. That wouldn't be a problem at all. I wish I could say that the market's going to continue to go up. I don't foresee a reason that it wouldn't continue to creep forward at this particular point. I don't see anything on the immediate horizon, but politics play a big game. And I think if things change at the end of next year, real estate is like anything else. It plays off of what's going on around. If we have a change in the system, and the system causes a change to our stocks, if that all of a sudden we have a crash in the market, that is going to cause a major slowdown in the real estate. It just pulls it right down. There's no reason they won't sustain itself.
Right now the people can't really afford enough house. Something has to happen.
Yeah, and we, there's a lot of things being looked at. In Japan, they have 100-year mortgages. They have mortgages that are that can be assumed by their kids.
Wow.
It's like it's perpetuity. You can keep going with the same mortgage. There are some things out there that we're, obviously everybody's looking at, but you're right. The amount of money that it takes for a young family to get into a home is astronomical. And here it's still good. My daughter in California, her first home she's looking at is $800,000. $800,000.
Right, that's
it's
not
a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It does have a garage, but if you want a home that's and it needs work. So if you want a home in a nice area, you're going to be paying through the nose. And
right.
Her monthly payment, even as low as her interest rate would be, it's still going to be $3,500 a month at least.
Right, I got you. So how did you get your first real estate clients?
Boy, that's stretching.
Got to think about it.
Well, yeah, it's been a couple of years. Actually, it was pretty easy. Now I remember, I lived in a condominium, and people would always drive up. So once I had my license, I pretty much, as long as I was at the condominium, I could always pick people up that were driving up and asking questions. Plus, majority of the condominiums there were owned by people who lived in what we call the mainland, the US. So whenever it came down to wanting to sell, well, I was the agent right there. So they immediately called me. And that's basically how I got started, and then it garnered from there.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so LLCs and land trusts, do you use those?
I use LLCs for some of the properties. I don't use any land trusts.
Why not?
Not familiar with them.
Oh,
really,
okay.
Basically, I just never have gotten into land trusts.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about LLCs? Do you use LLCs everywhere? Some people, they got so many LLCs. They got LLCs that stack in their LLCs, and so do you just have one, or do you have one for every property? Or
No, I only have one. I will tell you what I think to me works just as well as LLCs is by having an umbrella policy. If you have rentals, you need an umbrella policy to protect yourself. The LLCs, some of the LLCs that are today being made are for the basis of getting around the law.
Mm-hmm.
Law today is now saying if you're using an LLC just to get around the law, we can break that LLC.
Yeah,
so some of it's getting interesting.
I've heard of people using an LLC just to step away from it, but they're the only one doing the business, so they can't really step away from it because it's their business.
Right.
Well, I have more, but it's almost 20 minutes, so we should probably just call it good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.